Good morning, everybody. This is, and welcome to the Symmetry session. Symmetry is a white tea. We're going to have fun with this today. This is a little bit unlike any other white tea you've had in the shop before. So let's go ahead and jump directly into the session because there is a lot to talk about in terms of symmetry. So symmetry inherently is different because it's more than white tea. Now, what can be more than white tea? Green tea? Oh no, that's not what I'm talking about. There's something else in symmetry aside from tea leaves. So what do we have in this? So it's something called in Chinese chunpi, which gets translated in all sorts of ways. Tangerine peel is one way, orange peel is another way. Who knows what the right translation is? Let's not be too particular about the translation, and instead, let's talk about location. So, where's the white tea? Oh, and by the way, let's keep in our head the numbers 3 and 5. And somehow, by the end of today's session, you'll know why 3 and 5 are related to symmetry. Okay, so this peel, whatever it truly is, comes from a single location. It comes from a location in Guangdong Province. Is this important? If it's coming out of my mouth, it must be somewhat important. This particular county that it comes from is famous for this peel. The fruit inside also happens to be good. And why would that be? Because for traditional Chinese medicine, this peel is often used for digestive upsets. It's used if you're having lung difficulties, if you are producing too much phlegm. It's used in traditional Chinese medicine to take care of phlegm situations. It's also used in Chinese medicine as an aid to cardiovascular health. There's something in the oil from these particular peels that apparently the allegation goes, because remembering I'm not a doctor nor a researcher. Well, I guess I am a researcher, but not that type of researcher. Is supposed to be particularly good for the malleability of arteries. So inherently, this peel is important. And coming from this particular county and the way it's grown is important because it's just like ginseng. Yes, ginseng. So if you get ginseng off of a farm, or maybe you go to Chinatown and you get this little puny ginseng, not much of a root system, and you think it's going to do the same thing as if you went to Changbaishan in northeast China and actually went to the source of a very old ginseng plant, you would be wrong. Terroir matters. And so the particular terroir of Canton Province in this particular county creates all these benefits of this orange peel or tangerine peel. So that's one element that we're going to be talking about today. Second element is the tea itself. Where does this tea come from? Well, let's see, white tea. I sure hope it comes from Fujian Province. because if he starts talking about it's coming from Jiangxi province or Hunan province, I'm going to just shut my ears. In fact, I'm not even going to drink. Fortunately, I'm going to tell you, it comes from Fujian Province, and it truly does. The home of white tea. The area that has the most experience with white tea. Let's see if I can get us situated even a little bit better. So Fujian Province white tea. We remember from 2 weeks ago that Compass was from Fujian. So that's in Fujian Province on the eastern seaboard. Where is the tea that makes up this cake? And we'll talk about the cake in a minute. Take cake portion of this discussion in a minute. Where does it come from? Does it come from the eastern seaboard? No. It actually comes from Zhenghe. We've heard about Zhenghe many times. So Zhenghe is south, quite a bit south, well, not that far south, of the Wuyi Mountains. And it's devilishly difficult to get to. It takes forever to drive there. And you have to drive there because there's no rail station close. That drive is through 70 or 80 tunnels that are in the mountain. And for those of you who think, oh, he's exaggerating, not true. That tunnel has, I'm sorry, that mountain has the most tunnels through it in the world, or that set of mountains. And whether it's exactly 70 or exactly 80, perhaps we don't quite know, but it's a lot. So this is an isolated place. It's developed over time. It may be the home of, it is one of the homes of white tea. It may be the provenance point of white tea, and it may not be. Fujian may be the provenance point of white tea. Nobody knows for sure. But what everybody does know is that Zhenghe is famous for white tea. So let's step back a moment and talk about grades of white tea. Remembering grades not indicating flavor, they're really indicating the pick of white tea. And actually, more than the pick, they're indicating how the white tea is presented at the end to the consumer. So remember when we had Compass, that's a type of silver needle, right? And so that's one grade. Second grade, white peony. Third grade, Taoist eyebrows. Fourth grade, spring trip. So we remember that white tea is special because they pick 4 or 5 leaves. They then bring it all back to the factory, and it's an incredible scene at the factory. We've had the honor of pulling into the most famous producing factory in Zhenghe, rolling in at midnight. You roll in at midnight, and every single light in every building is on. Oh, and is that because they're scared of ghosts? Oh, no. There are people all over the place. And even more than that, there's tea leaves all over the place because they're taking the tea and they're making decisions, because this is today's harvest that's coming, and they're making decisions. Are we going to make silver needle? Are we going to make white peony? Are we going to do Taoist eyebrows, or are we going to do spring tribute? And depending on what they decide, they place it in an area. They segregate it, because the process of further working on the tea leaves is different for each decision that they make. And this process at night, the place is all lit up and busy, as a honeycomb all the way till 2 or 3 in the morning before everybody shuts down. And then they're up early the next morning, further processing. Because remember, if the weather permits, what is it that they want to do? They want to sun dry. And if you sun dry, you got to get all these tea leaves on bamboo flats. You got to get the flats in a type of contraption that can be wheeled out into the courtyard. You got to take and make notation of what time it gets out there, because you're going to rotate every hour so that a flat gets direct sunlight every hour, and they keep moving up this contraption. You got to monitor all this stuff. There's details, and you got to pay attention to the details. So remembering 3 and 5, let's talk about 3 and 5 for a minute. 3 here refers to how many years old the tea is. And by the way, this was something that was made specially for us. So we selected 3-year-old equivalent of doused eyebrows. Now, you noticed I used a value-laden word in that statement. And there's a reason. I said equivalent. So the equivalent in this context means that the pick was 3 or 4 leaves, or the separation was 3 or 4 leaves, a few, a little bit more than a few, but not many buds. And so that's the selection pile that this tea comes from. Was there further refinement? Oh, yes, there was further refinement. We wanted uniformity. Why? Because when you make a cake, uniformity will provide at the end of the day a better flavor experience. Better here, also a value-laden word, more predictable. You know us, we have rules in the shop. Predictability, grammage, time, how you heat up the tea leaves, how you present the brew. There's all sorts of rules. The rules don't start here in the shop. They start way back in China. We got to have things the way we want them, because at the end of the day, you as consumers, you love predictability. If you get something great, you want predictable, great experiences. Now, you don't love predictability when you get something terrible. That is horrible. Well, actually, it's good, because when you get something terrible and it's predictably terrible, that means you'll never do it again. We don't like stuff like that. We like greatness and predictability of that flavor. So we went through that process, 3-year-old tea. Now, you might be asking yourself, how in the world did you know that this particular farmer would have aged tea? Well, we've been going to this farmer, and we've known him for about 15, 16, 17 years. And he's famous in China for doing aged tea cakes. So he's got all the tools, including the storage facility, to actually store tea. And so this is not the first of these cakes that he's done, because he's done Enemy's Demise. And those of you who've had that cake, that thing is 10 years old. So going to him and telling him this is what we wanted didn't create a huge problem. What did create a little bit of a challenge is how specific we were in terms of the uniformity. But not a huge challenge because he's in the tea business and he's famous in the tea business and he should be. He knows his craft. He knows how to put this cake together. So was that our only demand? You know us. Once we start on that demand trail, we start thinking of other things that we want. And so what else did we want? We wanted this peel broken up and every cake to have this peel in it. We knew that this combination would be a potent combination from a traditional Chinese medicine point of view, in terms particularly of an aid to digestion. I'm talking about benefits, and all of you realize, wait a minute, you didn't talk to me about the most important thing first. Yes, I made a mistake. We should first have talked about flavor and aroma. Oh, yes. That was the first thing we really considered. And the flavor and aroma, as you'll see in a minute, are really attractive. And so, particularly for the American palate, we knew or we believed that this would be very successful for the American palate. So you have this combination. Oh, and we haven't talked about 5 yet, have we? The 5 refers to how old the peel is. We don't just go up to a tree, peel out, pick the tangerine, eat the tangerine. Oh, that's really delicious. And say, oh, this uses peel. Oh, no. And Chinese traditional medicine doesn't do that either. So at a minimum, most peel that goes into Chinese traditional medicine is at least 3 years aged. So part of the question is, are these peels being aged for appearance's sake? Are they being aged so that they can be handled more easily? Is it easier to break up a brittle aged peel? Is that why it's being aged? Oh, no. When you age things in China, there better be more than an aesthetic benefit. And there is. There's an alleged health benefit. And let me match that alleged health benefit with piles of gold. So if you get a 1-year-old aged peel, you root around and you find a piece of copper. And that copper you can exchange for that. If it's 3 years old, don't go to the copper anymore. Don't even go to the silver. You better have gold. And do I mean one gold piece or several gold pieces? I'm talking about several gold pieces. So the relationship of the age of the peel is much like the relationship of that earlier herbal medicine I brought up, and that's ginseng. Older, more expensive, allegedly much more powerful and better. And so that's why we didn't stop at 3. Oh, no, we went to 5. We want the best for everybody who gets this particular cake. So the 3 refers to the age of the tea leaves. The 5 refers to the age of the orange peel. Did we, oh, Tea Master is looking at me as if I've made a mistake. I'm about to make a mistake. But you know what? I'm going to cut it off before I do make that mistake because she's got her thirsty eyes on me. which means that you have your thirsty eyes on me. So let's go ahead, and it is my great pleasure to bring forth the thirstiest tea master.
Hey, good morning. 早上好 everybody. My name is Sophie. Everybody. So we do white tea, huh? So this is called Symmetry. So, today I use the book analysis. We try. So this is tea, right? So it's from cake.
So she's getting out the tea from her bag. It's in a cake form, and this cake has 357 grams. And you notice how we've broken it up a bit. Some of it is very broken up, but some is not. Some is in relatively bigger or larger pieces. That's okay. So you have this combination. You can get a whole lot of steeps from this. You can get at least 4 steeps from every set of this. And this is 5 grams. And the timing is 4 minutes for the first one. But you can get and should be getting at least 4 great steeps from this. Some people would get 5 steeps. So there's a lot of tea actually in this. And in a minute, you'll get a sense of why this is so interesting. So the tea master has heated all the cups, or is in the process of heating all the cups, making sure that nothing has a soap stain or anything on it. And we're going to use 175-degree water that's been slightly, where the heat or the steam has been dissipated. And this is one, by the way, if you are traveling or if you're camping and you can't exactly get the degree of the water, the temp of the water, don't worry about it. This is less sensitive to that. And in general, the general rule is that cakes are less sensitive. So if you come sailing in at 180, you're not going to wreck this tea. And you'll see why in a minute. So dissipated the steam a little bit. Made sure that the cups are properly heated. And is adding the water. And we set the time for 4 minutes. So this is a little bit longer steep. And in general, caked teas are going to end up being a longer steep. Okay, so this is your tableau, and you notice that the tea master didn't go through this step of playing, and that's, oh, she's not playing, that's right. This step of dissipating the heat, and that step, because it's not critical with this tea. And once you taste it, you'll understand why. So some of it is on top, some of it has floated to the bottom. Most of it's actually on top. So 4 minutes steep. Now, we've talked about that the peel and the leaves were compressed into this cake. And we did this on purpose because we knew again that from an alleged health benefit perspective, as well as the taste benefit perspective, that this would work, and it should work really, really well for Americans. Turns out in China, this works really well as for the tea consumers as well. Usually the runs on this in China are not that much at a time. Reason being is that the expense of this, it's not inexpensive. a cake of this here costs $385. In China, it actually currently costs more than that. And from the mercantile point of view, any of you who are interested on this particular broadcast and purchasing, the price is $385, but there'd be a 10% discount against that over the next 24 hours. So we have 50 of these cakes. We did 50 of these cakes. We have 50. Actually, we have a little less than that. But that gives you some sense about why we did this and what we're attempting to do in terms of give you something a little bit more interesting for a white tea setup. So in addition to this, the other aspect that you should remember about this is that plenty of places sell peel. However, in traditional Chinese medicine, they generally speaking are only looking for peel from this one county. And again, because of the specific terroir, the specific health benefits. But the first thing you have to ask somebody, if you ever see tea in a peel or peel in the tea, is the question, where is this from? And while the taste may be okay, if it's not from this particular county, the alleged health benefits may not be there in the same way that they are with this. Scientists have worked hard in trying to understand what differentiates this particular peel. And they developed a machine that can analyze all the peels and tell you which ones are from this area. That's how distinctive they are. All right, so the timer's gone off, not in a hurry, but just very steadily. You're going to separate the tea leaves from the tea itself.
What's the name of the county?
Xinhui, Xinhui. Thank you. So this is the color that this should look like. So this has a nice yellowish with a tinge of orange color. And let's go ahead and enter the quality arena. Let's first look at these leaves. And even the leaves that were compressed, they're still compressed, but you can tell that they're breaking down. All right, and remembering that this is done at less than 200 degrees, 175 degrees, we can take 175-degree sip and coat our tongue and start to get an understanding. And remember, as we enter the quality arena, what is it that we're looking for? We're looking for where in the mouth do you have astringency? What sort of consistency? Is it dense? Is it thin? You're looking for aftertaste characteristics, if any. And you're certainly at some point looking for an energy signature of this. I use the word signature. That's probably not quite what I should have said. You're looking for energetics, what it is you're feeling after you drink this. So those are the main things. So let's enter. You're not entering. I'm entering and you're watching. So the first time around, I'm really concentrating on what I just indicated is important in terms of the mouthfeel, in terms of density or lack thereof, I'm thinking about aftertaste right now. It'll take a moment more for me to get a better grasp of energetics, and I'm going to take a second sip here. And as I take that second sip, I'm going to confirm what I believe I detected in the first sip. And then I'm going to think about, okay, what sort of aroma profile am I getting? And what sort of taste elements am I getting? Okay. It is now your turn to brew this tea.
One of the participants asked, is this the same type of peel used in the, another tea you have here at the shop that's called Mandarin Warm?
Yes. No.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
It's a
sorry.
two-
No, it
two
isn't. Oh, that's right. That's right. It's different. It's different varietal from a
Yeah.
different location, but it's still in Canton Province, but it is not this location. This is the one that is very specifically used always in traditional Chinese medicine.
So both from Canton Province,
Yes.
but a
Different locations.
different location.
Different locations, yes. So the first thing is to make sure that your cups are absolutely clean, that they're heated. You open your bag and you're going to add these leaves to the heated cup.
Participant asked, what is the vintage of the tea again?
This came into the shop in 2020. That's what I'm thinking. 2020, yes.
Pandemic,
Yeah.
2019 started in China. So you're working.
Yeah, so we were working on this in China in 2019. We actually got it into the shop in 2020. So the leaves were from 2016. So effectively, the leaves are 7 years old. Effectively, the orange peel is, let's do my math here. Oh, 4 minutes, yes. I'm also supposed to be doing my timer as well. Timer and math sometimes don't go together. The leaves are, I'm sorry, the peel is effectively 9 years old. So why does China pay so much attention to aged white and aged peels? And according to herbalists in China, and looking at what science can so far ascertain, as these both age, they complement each other and they move from the realm of being a tea product into a health product. So what does that specifically mean? When that's said, it's just like taking a vitamin. Let's say that we take a multivitamin. So by the time you've taken the vegetables, the meats, and extracted the vitamins and put them in a pill, it's called a nutraceutical, a health beneficial product rather than a foodstuff. In China, the subtlety of the language, they call this a health product at this age, 保健品, instead of just, oh, buy cha, buy tea. And so there is this crossover point in their minds at 7 years when this becomes more potent. And really, we're talking about the potency and the concentration, particularly of anti-inflammatory elements and other elements that are supposed to be particularly good for digestion. So if you ask me the following question, I will give you the subsequent answer. So have I ever, on an upset stomach, turned to this to bring relief? And the answer is yes, I have. Did it work? It worked for me. So everybody's different. And so everybody will have their own results. But certainly in China, this is strongly seen as hugely a great digestive. And by the way, when these type of cakes become available on the market in China, they get snapped up right away. Just like the enemy's demise gets snapped up right away. It drives the price way up to get these because storage costs, think about this for a minute. You've seen what the original leaves of doused eyebrows look like. They're large, they're bulky. When you store them, it takes lots of room. Think of the farmers, the same issue. And so you have to store these leaves for a certain amount of time before they take on that additional nutritive value. And therefore, it's expensive to handle those leaves because you have to make sure they're at the right temperature, not exposed to the sun. You're rotating and keeping very careful track. There's a built-in expense to that. Yes.
So to lock down all the elements of age, you've mentioned 3 and 5 is the formula. That
Yes.
a minimum of 3 years of tea, of the tea itself, tea leaves, minimum 3 years old.
Yes.
The peel, the tangerine peel, minimum 5 years old.
Correct.
In this vintage, you brought it in 2019, and I think you estimated the tangerine peels about 9.
Currently, it's
Currently,
almost not
Almost nine.
because it was 3 years old when we started working with this in 2019.
So by design, then this is to address a question of a participant about the aging of the peels, and just a reminder of the question was whether it has to be the same age as the peels, but as the tea leaves. But you said indicated
No.
the tea leaves are younger than the
Tea leaves are younger. Yes, it's the peel. So think about reishi or ginseng or any of these cordycepsis, any of these herbals that can be very quickly produced, but have relatively little value in the marketplace. Why? They have little marketplace value because their nutritive content isn't the same as if it were in the wild, fully aged, growing in that terroir all that time, and then harvested. It's just a huge difference. And in terms of the alleged benefits, and actually those alleged benefits for some of these plants are very well quantified in China, very well quantified. And so some of them, particularly, so here we have the confluence of traditional Chinese medicine with tea. On the tea side, these benefits are not as well quantified. But on the traditional Chinese medicine, because all this time that it's been touching up against the West has been saying, hey, how does this do this? Why is this way? Whereas tea, it's relatively later as the West has started to study. And certainly by the 70s, the West was getting the idea, oh, tea not only good, maybe good for you. And then by the 80s, it became very popular. Oh yes, we're in the blue zone. I think that's what they call it. That's the zone where, you know, people are living to be thousands of years old, and they just are pictures of great health. And so scientists go in and say, why are you so old? And how do you do it? Oh, it's the tea. Oh, it's the vegetables. Oh, it's the olive oil. It's the Mediterranean diet. So you hear all of these things. And so science has been trying to isolate, almost like the Taoist. You know, I'm going to digress here a little bit. and then I'll get back on track. So how did the Taoists start out? They started out saying, hey, there's an elixir of long life, and we're going to find it. And so they're experimenting with this rock and that rock, trying to derive this immortality elixir. They were some of the earliest scientists because they were experimenting with everything. Well, we still do the same thing today, but of course we use much longer words and we talk about repeatability, all these things which are the hallmark of science. We do that. But the tradition really started a long time ago. Yes.
Participant comments, very smooth and comfortable to drink, lovely balance of earthiness and subtle citrus sweetness.
Smooth, easy to drink, balance of earthiness and subtle sweetness. Love these, and citrus, citrusy sweetness. Love these comments because the citrus comes through. There's no question about that. Earthiness, it's almost, and I don't disagree with the use of earthiness, especially in this context. But what I would say is earthy outdoorsiness, because it's almost, you're getting the sense that you're getting something from the outdoors, not necessarily deeply in the earth, but definitely that sense of vegetalness, outdoorsness. Yeah, good comment.
If somebody wanted to learn more about how the Chinese perceive the benefits of the tangerine peel, what search terms would they use? Or what is that tangerine? Perhaps you could spell again what that particular citrus peel is, what the pinyin used for that.
Oh, chunpi, CHENPI. But it has to be from Xinhui, XINHUI. If it's not from there, then all bets are off in terms of trying to figure out what the benefits are. This is very specific.
Another participant comments, mouth watering. It's her experience.
Yeah, mouth watering. Love this comment. So there's something about this mixture which is easy to drink. So mouth watering suggests that. It suggests juicy. It suggests easy.
And somebody else shares also he's having the same experience. This particular tea has a very juicy mouthfeel.
Juicy mouthfeel. Yeah. Juicy mouthfeel. And I like all of these terms because unlike most medicines that you're asked to take, or most things that are in quotes, good for you, this thing tastes good. That's the primary thing. You know, it's so much easier for you to consume things that are, in quotes, good for you if they taste good. Too bad ice cream isn't good for you because it tastes so good.
It's not good for me. Are you serious? Just kidding. My misunderstanding. Somebody else comments, this is a lovely tea. I love the smell of the citrus, and under the wet leaves, it almost has an umami aroma as well.
Yes, this is great. Lovely tea. Under the wet leaves, there's a sense of umami-ness. I like that because you can't get away from nature on this, in this particular tea. For as good as it tastes, a previous commentator said the earthy outdoorsiness, this one as an umami-ness. Yeah, we're directly connected with the plant kingdom on this tea. That is one of the easiest ways to describe this. This is more than tea in a way. How can there be anything more than tea? That's false. Let's restate that. This is tea that at its height in conveying how close you are to the plant kingdom.
On energetics, a participant observes it's like taking a breath of very fresh air and having a good stretch.
Taking a breath of very fresh air and having a good stretch is what this commentator comments. And I like that because what it's suggesting again is how easy this is. Tastes good, very fresh, juicy. How can you go on?
And we circled, sorry, Aggie. I did miss your comment. Aggie commented, yes, it's smooth and very easy to drink. A ripe citrus scent.
Love
And-
this.
And something like the volatiles from Smoky Pine, question mark, only about 1/100th of that evergreen oily scent. But honey hints as well.
Love this comment. So easy to drink. Aggie made a reference to Smoky Pine, and I'm glad she did. Not for the smokiness, but there is a hint of pininess in this. Love that portion of the comment. What followed that? There was something else that was important.
Yeah, okay, so we have ripe citrus.
Ripe citrus, yes.
ripe-
This is really important because it's not, you know how when you sometimes unintentionally taste a peel that you get potency, but you don't necessarily get ripeness. That's why I like Aggie's comment on this, because she's distinguished the fact it isn't a tartness which drives you away. It's more, yeah, I get the peel thing, but it's almost as if the right fruit is in here, and you're getting it because hints of honey, hints of sweetness. Love this commentary because if it were just the fresh peel, think about taking a fresh peel. You take one this morning, peel that orange, you bite into it. Yeah, you'll get orange sensibility out of it, but none of you are going to come back and say, oh, honey like and sweet. That's just not there. But in this, as you age the peel, it brings that out.
Did you talk about the reference to Smoky Pine, like the volatiles of Smoky Pine? Because maybe that ties in with the outdoorsiness, prior comments.
So what I'm really trying to reference in that is I'm trying to drop the smoky off of that and just focus on the pininess, because the pininess is always this very fresh aroma and a freshness even of taste. If you could do Smoky Pine without the smoke, you would definitely understand Aggie's comment, because I completely get this, because underneath that citrus, there is something else going on, and it is like a pininess.
Somebody else comments, the color of the tea liquor is different than the usual. It's not quite amber, maybe a bit orange / honey color.
I love this comment. So yes, the color is quite distinct, because this commentator is trying to get their arms around how you would describe it. It's not quite amber, this is correct, but I love the sense of honey, like, because some honey colors. So let's think about one in particular. The first one that comes to mind is acacia. Acacia honey looks very much this color. And when you said a honey-like color, that's immediately what came to mind. Good catch.
Another participant says this is now making it into the top 3 of her favorite teas, and she would love to do a taste comparison of Event Horizon, another tea here at Sophie's with Symmetry.
So this particular customer loves this tea. It's in her top 3 teas, and is looking at some point to do a comparison between Event Horizon, which has a peel from a different varietal orange from another location, with this. And that would be a wonderful comparison, because you get a distinct difference. And the difference I'm willing to bet would be this would seem sweeter. All right, how we doing?
Oh, one more comment, another comment. It's like orange peel was aged, fermented, and distilled into a liquor and then added to the tea, almost making this kind of like a tea cocktail.
Ah, love this comment. So it's almost like a fermented, oh, you could almost say like mead. A little bit of fermented honey, making it eligible or making it seem like it's part of a cocktail. And I love this comment because it addresses a couple things. You've got this very smooth mix of flavors here. There are no elements of this to disturb you. There's plenty of elements for it to be interesting, but nothing is out of place. This is like a cocktail where every single element is exactly in place. And that's how I feel about this. And this is one of the things that we were so excited about when we got this, because this farmer, he's been in the business. His family has been in the white tea business since the 1800s. And he's one of six brothers. And he's the brother, he's the youngest, who decided to actually pursue the business. And his skill level is acknowledged all over China. And his particular venue is very interesting because he was able to wangle a deal sometime in the early 2000s for this spectacular location, which used to be an imperial resting post. And what I mean by that is it had buildings that were built so that if the emperor or a high official traveled in this area, this is where they stayed. And he took this, he added a processing element to this, which is over a canyon. It's spectacular. There's a stream in that canyon. And what's so great about this is that the wind comes down the draw at night and then comes up through the building. And that helps dry the leaves and keep them dry. The location of this was just brilliant. And he's got this mechanism where he can pull a lever by floor, and each floor will cant, and it will cant enough so that air can come through and keep, again, the right humidity, the right amount of dryness in the facility. Just an unbelievable job. And normally you would think, oh my God, how was he able to wangle an imperial post like this? And obviously it takes political skill, of which he has. He did this at an early enough time that this was actually able to be done. Could you do this today? And the answer is no. You couldn't do this today because it would be segregated as a historical object. Now, it's funny, when you drive to this particular location, there is this placard at this small road entrance that goes up to it, which says, oh, historical site. You get to the site, you can clearly tell from the architecture, this used to be something impressive. And there is the original placard of this achieving historical value in China. And so China's trying to go back over this last 10 to 12 years and reclaim all of these places. But since this is an operating tea farm now, this is one of the things he's been able to keep. And you can still go visit it, but he's turned this thing into what I think is just a fabulous use for a historic building.
One of the participants shares, this is an exceptional tea experience. And she says, thank you for bringing it to us. a second commenter says, that the fermented orange peel that, somebody else had commented on is probably what smells to her almost like curry in both the dry and wet leaves.
Oh, interesting. So the comment about exceptional tea experience, you're most welcome. That's what we're trying to do all the time. And we just got very fortunate with this because it is on at every level an exceptional tea experience. And then another commentator talked about the orange peel or the tangerine peel reminding of curry. As a reminder of curry, an essence in some of the best curries. And love these comments because orange or tangerine peel is used in Western cooking to bring out certain flavors. It's used in Indian cooking to do the same. So this is along a tradition in a way, but this is done in such a unique way with such a unique varietal of this that you don't get anything that quite matches this, particularly in terms of the beverage itself. This is a wonderful thing, by the way, to share with others because most other people, especially if they're not too used to what tea can be, this is a great intro for those who are trying to enter the tea experience or special tea experiences. And this is very easily understood and easily accepted. Yes.
Is another virtual tea tasting session planned soon? Didn't see one on the website a few days ago.
Okay, if you look this morning, it's on the website, and I'm glad you brought this up because there's two aspects of this. First off, next week starts a new long set of teas. So we're going to do Mischief next Saturday, Harmony the following Saturday, and Lava Mountain the third Saturday. That'll be on April 1st. Speaking of April, now that you brought it up, Japan. That's where Xiaobei and I will be. All of April, all the rest of April. So there's some notes that you should take right now. Look in your cones. If you are running low on stuff, wait a minute, let's be more specific, on excellent tea, and there's a specific set of teas you want, now would be a good time to order it up because we'll be gone until May 5th. That's the first note. Second note, are we going to buy teas in Japan? Let's talk about the purpose of this first. The real purpose of this trip is to start to establish relationships. We don't know long-term what the world's going to look like. We don't know if we'll be able to continue to get tea from China. These are all situations that hinge on political decisions that everybody's making during these times. And it's not easy to exactly see where all of this is going. So Xiaobei and I, you'll see, we'll start to travel the world as we look for teas because we can't be in a situation where we can't get tea, even if that location is the very best source. If we can't get it, we can't get it. We've got to get others. So we're in Japan to talk with farmers, look at what they're doing, mainly about green tea, right? Japan really doesn't do anything else except green tea. They do a little bit of this and that, but green tea is their specialty. We're also talk to scientists because we're unclear whether those teas are safe or not. And this still has to do with the Fukushima accident, has to do with the fact that lots of elements related to that accident have not really been talked about much or made very public. And one of the things that the tea master has insisted is that when we bring tea back, it's not good. to serve things that are harmful to customers. And number two, it's even worse if it's harmful to ourselves. So we're focusing on these two questions, and we're going all over Japan to explore these questions and see what the possibility of in the future would be of bringing in Japanese teas. But like I said, you'll start to see us travel the world and look at other places. And right now, the Chinese Tea Association is helping us set up appointments. They're helping us come to know who they already know to be good farmers. So there's great cooperation, and we hope that that will continue. Who knows what the future brings. All right. As usual, I've talked ad nauseum, but I did explain 3 and 5 as promised. We did look at a difference of white tea that's very different from the others. And this whole series, when we started out with Fuding, with Compass, up to this, has been a series of differences in terms of technique and in terms of end result. So this has been a fun series for us. We look forward to the next series. And for those of you who want to know what we're going to do in Japan in terms of the tea broadcast, we're not sure yet. We're working on 2 aspects of this. First off, we have to have good internet in Japan to do this. And we're not sure every place we are going is going to have that. So that's one element. The second element is we also have to be in places where if we do this, we don't disturb everybody around us, because these would be, I think, in Japanese time, around 2 a.m. broadcasts. And we want to make sure that we're not disturbing whoever we're with or wherever we're staying. So these are elements that we're studying. And should we not do broadcast during the time we're in Japan, we're working on some alternatives as well. So at any rate, we'll have more news next week. So this week that's coming up, you have to focus on 2 things. Usually I just have you focus on staying healthy, but you have to focus on no mischief until next Saturday. You all have a great week. You take care now. Bye-bye.